Oh, I see what you're saying. So this is this percentage of that. This is this percentage of that.
Okay, so we're going to open the Board of Selectmen meeting for November 27th, 2017 at 6:37. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sorry, we're starting a little bit late. We had another meeting. Resident comment, Mr. Dempsey.
Mike Dempsey, 33 Uptack Road. I just wanted to give you a quick update on Community Preservation Act here in Groveland. So, found out about a week and a half ago that we got a state match for our collected taxes of 38.1%. And while 38.1% isn't 100% like we wish it was, but we were the 18th highest in the state out of 162 other CPA communities. So Groveland is still doing very well, and part of the reason is because we have a 3% surcharge, and also something about Groveland demographics the state likes. So most other communities, I don't know the exact number, out of 162, only got 17.2%. So that was what the rest of the communities got, with only 1% surcharge. So we got a total state match of $112,490. So that's pretty good. That will help us with our upcoming projects. And I just wanted to give a reminder to anyone watching from other departments and organizations that our fiscal year 2019 CPA proposals are due in here to Town Hall December 15th at 4 p.m. Any questions for me?
Well, there's no questions. It's just open
Oh, okay.
comments, so,
Yep.
Could I
All
ask
set?
him, could I ask him a question?
no. No, go ahead.
I know that Boston is now included in the, how do you see that impacting Groveland going forward?
Well,
There's
it's
gonna be less money,
impact-
right?
Yep, it's gonna impact everybody, definitely. The state organization that helps towns with community preservation is working on finding, having the state legislature find alternative funding sources. So they hope to increase the amount of money, because right now, all the money comes from the registry of deed, and that's about it, unless they can find some other source. So hopefully, with Boston behind it now, maybe there'll be more push to find other sources.
Thank you.
All set. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Moving on to the warrants. I'll read those. Motion to approve payroll warrant number 18-21 in the amount of $194,716.92.
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion to approve bill warrant number 18-21 in the amount of $582,860.57.
Second.
Second, any further discussion? All those in favor? Moving on to discussion and possible vote, we have Attorney William Hewig from KP Law to provide a litigation update. Bill?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I gave to the finance director a global report. It's more than litigation. What I tried to do here was I tried to go back over and take a look at our statements to you, our legal statements, our bills over the past 6 or 7 months. and to put on here items, matters, or issues which we had assisted the town in one respect or another. In some cases, there are a couple cases where litigation was ongoing. Some of the things on here are simply opinions, emails, or requests for assistance or review. Others I put on here that are a holdover from the prior report, just to show you what cases have been settled. If you would like to take a look at page 1, I think there's 5 pages in this, yes. The first item I have there is the Route 97 reconstruction project down at the bottom. Oh, by the way, part 1 is the list of contact attorneys for the town. That is, attorneys whose specialties are available to the town to provide them with legal services at the request of the finance director. So we've got, I'm your primary contact attorney. We've got land use and wetland specialists, labor specialists, real estate contracts, and bylaws or legislation or that sort of thing. These are the attorneys that I turn to if I get a request from Denise, for example, for a land use issue or question, or a ZBA or a zoning or a contract issue. David Dineski's done some contract work for the town. So these are the attorneys who have been identified to assist Groveland and to whom I turn if I can't help address or answer the problem myself. I'm basically a litigator and a generalist, so when it gets to land use and it gets to contracts, I farm these out to the other attorneys. If you take a look now at page 1, the first item is the Route 97 reconstruction project. As you know, that is a series of eminent domain takings occasioned by the expansion or the improvement along Route 97, which is Salem Street and School Street from the Georgetown line in towards the town. The eminent domain process set forth by state statute conceives the following process. The town votes to take property. The town votes to establish what is called a pro tanto payment. The pro tanto payment is the town's estimate of the fair market value, and it's offered to the person whose property has been taken. That person has a chance either to accept it or to reject it and start a lawsuit. And if the lawsuit could result conceivably in a larger verdict, it might result in a lower verdict. So a person who wants to challenge it in court is taking their chances. We have had no lawsuits yet. I understand there's one threat,
Yes.
hasn't been filed yet. So if a lawsuit is instituted, it's an opportunity for the town to negotiate a slightly higher price perhaps and avoid the costs of litigation. But so far, many of the pro tantos have been accepted, which tells me that those are probably pretty accurately reflecting the value of the property. In any event, we have been assisting Denise and the town in the implementing of those of the takings, the conclusion of the takings where pro tantos have been accepted, and monitoring the ones that haven't been. If you turn to page 2. I put a lot of these items in here only because they appeared in bills over the last maybe 8 or 9 months. A lot of what you see here, in fact, all of these, down to the litigation part, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, were really opinions that we gave, reviews that some of our attorneys made of papers, documents, or some other form of assistance in the form of advice on these various topics. It doesn't mean we have been completely and thoroughly entrenched and involved in all these issues. The zoning bylaw recodification, Jonathan Eichman has been working and has worked on that for a long time, so I put that in there. The DeHulu land swap, purchase and sale agreements have been signed on that swap, and the parties are currently pursuing their due diligence obligations. We assisted in bringing that about, but at this point, it's up to them to decide whether they want to proceed with the sale. Uptack Road tax parcels. There were tax title issues identified by a prospective purchaser, and we've been advising the town on options, but so far that remains up in the air. It's not clear whether that purchase is going to go forward or not. They're trying to resolve the title issues. Center Street Greenway, Community Preservation Fund acquired property on Center Street and we're reviewing the form now for a conservation restriction that would be imposed by the town on that property. So that's the kind of advice we've been giving for that. Meadow Pond Conservation Restriction. The town is undertaking a review of a possible conservation restriction which might be required if a conservation restriction is granted to the Department of Fish and Wildlife. Property which is acquired under Title 97 cannot convey any further restrictions without a special act. So Fish and Wildlife wants a restriction from the town, and to do so, we would probably have to get a special act from the legislature, and we're assisting the town in preparing that and reviewing that special act. Litigation, Section 4, the Brandolini case, you recall, that was the snowfall case. That was settled earlier in 2017. I just put it in because it was on the last report to show you that's done and gone. Same thing with the first Kozdra case. At the bottom, that was the claim of against the cemetery commissioners in the town by a party that was having a dispute with other members of the family, and they ultimately wanted the remains of a relative removed from a cemetery plot, and also the name of the person removed from the grave marker, or the grave marker removed. The parties, we were involved in that, but only peripherally, because the cemetery commissioners were sued. But what happened was, the disputing family parties entered into their own settlement agreement, and they agreed that the remains, which were in an urn, it wasn't a body, it was cremated remains, ashes, would be moved. The parties agreed to move it, and they agreed that the grave marker would be removed, so they settled the case. The town, the cemetery commission, wasn't part of that settlement. That was done independently of us, and then the suit was dismissed. So they came to us and said, well, will you please do this? And we said, we're not sure we have the independent authority to do that just based on your settlement. We need a court order. And that was my advice, saying, let's not do this here. Let's be sure that we are right. Let's get a court order. The law was very unclear about whether we have the power to go moving people's remains and cemetery markers. So there was another suit started in Essex County in Land Court. The first one was in Superior Court. This was in Land Court. And we were sued here, and the parties that had negotiated that original settlement agreement were trying to get a declaratory judgment against the town, or an injunction order against the town to move, and the cemetery commission to comply with the settlement agreement. Our argument was, A, we'll do whatever the court tells us to do, but we won't do it until then. We wanted to be safe. Our second argument was, we don't think this court has any jurisdiction, because this is land court, and a certificate of the ownership of a cemetery plot is not an interest in land. It is more akin to a license. Eventually, we got the matter before before the land court in a summary judgment argument, and the land court agreed with us and dismissed the case in October 16, 2017. Case is dismissed. The entry of judgment was made less than 30 days ago, so it is still possible that one of the aggrieved parties could appeal that. We have seen nothing about it yet. That's the Bernard S. Courtney versus Kozdra case, one of the two real active litigation matters that I'm reporting to you tonight. As far as we're concerned, it's concluded, and we hope that it will stay concluded. Land use and real estate, continuing under Section 5 on page 3. The Harper case was on the prior report. That has been dismissed after the ZBA essentially issued an amended decision, and that case really was dismissed by action of the ZBA. A lot of these land use and zoning cases, we take what is called a passive defense in the case, and that is, unless directed by the town to get involved in the actual merits of the case, our position with respect to parties that are fighting over zoning or a land use issue is, you folks fight it out, you folks hire the attorney. We are neutral about the outcome of the case, even though the decision, a building permit or a zoning approval or denial may have been issued by public employees of the town. it is not an issue in which the town itself has sufficient interest to spend attorney's fees. So what happens with these passive defenses is, the lawyers take it on, they fight it out, and we submit reports to you from time to time and give you the status. That was the case in the Harper case. It was also the case in the Michael Tardy versus Brad Lingall's case. And that case appears at the bottom of page 3. I'm giving you a full report here because the last report that you had didn't have one, but that case also was dismissed. It was a land use case, it was dismissed, we took a passive defense in that. The Harris-Slack case is the other active litigation case that we have been working on for you this year. That's the case about the home business claim for a candy shop and a gift shop at 94 Main Street. It's been going on for a long time. The issue, the original permit denial was remanded back down to the ZBA. The ZBA denied it again. It came back up. So we ended up in Essex County Superior Court. We appeared in the court in December and tried to argue for summary judgment, tried to argue to the court that the case was about only the most recent permit denial, and if that were the case, we could argue that there were no disputed facts, and therefore we were entitled to judgment as a matter of law. The court disagreed. The court said, well, this is really about a permit denial that occurred a long time ago in 2014. It was remanded to the ZBA, then it came back up before us again, so the court disagreed with summary judgment. We ended up having a bench trial on November 20th, 2017, in Essex County Superior Court. I believe it was a day. Jeff Blake and Nicole Costanzo, both of whom you know, tried the case that day. We don't know the outcome yet. We are still preparing the post-trial papers. And for a bench trial, what you do is, because it doesn't go to the jury, the judge has got to decide, what you do is you submit what you want the findings of fact and the rulings of law to be from the judge. Both parties submit it, and the judge reviews that, looks at the record, and makes a decision. So we don't have a decision yet on the Harry Slack case, and we'll report that to you when we do. My guess is it'll be a couple months before we get a decision on that. The final case on this page, the final case under litigation, land use litigation, is also another passive defense case, John Ralph Neal versus Groveland. It's a building permit dispute case, and it is still ongoing, but as I said, we're assuming a passive defense in that matter as well. That concludes my legal report to you, and I'd be happy to take any questions that any of you may have about any of these or any other legal matter.
Start with, Ed, do you have any questions?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Bill?
I don't know if it's direct to Bill or whoever. Can I talk about this legal expense, FYI 18?
Sure.
So, we'll start with the DeHulla swap. We're at $1,100 already, and was that supposed to cost the town any money?
No, but we get billed, so that's why I track
Yeah,
it,
these
so
are
that
all
we can,
billed. This isn't actually
Right.
what we're
So-
paying.
But that won't get,
no, they will pay us. Right now, we're taking it out of CPA administrative costs, I believe, and then they will reimburse the town as part of the
Okay.
closing.
and the same, we haven't been able to do anything with the Uptack Road land sale, so that money's obviously coming out of us no matter what.
Correct.
And then,
And then the Center Street CR is covered by CPA.
yeah,
The Meadow Pond Town Forest CR is covered by CPA. Chapter 90 comes out of the Chapter 90 funds. That's not out of the general fund budget.
So-
Everything else is under general fund.
so all this open meeting law issue costs this town $6,000, about $58.90.
Yes, correct.
So that's the most amount of money we spent this year on
On any
legal.
one subject?
Yes, correct.
Actually, 40% of the total bill. Pardon the pun.
And the ZBA matters that is just like, there's no other issues over there?
No, so the ZBA matters is pretty much what Bill just articulated, the Harris-Lack case.
Yeah. So that's just put under that category?
Correct.
Okay.
I summarize it so that I can
Okay.
then bill back what we need to and just categorize things.
All right,
Yeah, So I was approached this weekend by a woman at Market Basket asking what the total was for open meeting law, legal. So that number is about $6,000. Lisa, anything?
Yes, a few questions. I see the initials NJC in several spots, but I didn't see a corresponding person that went with that on the front page.
No, Nicole is not on the front page. She has, I assigned her and Jeff Blake to the case because Jeff is a land use litigator. So although Jeff's name doesn't appear on the front page, land use, Jonathan Eichman, Joel Bard, Jeff is the litigator. So because this is in litigation, I assigned the case to him. He's an experienced principal in the firm.
So does that fall under real estate? If you were looking at
Just
the,
which one? The
So-
Harris Slack?
Or
So I think
there's
it'd be land
multiple-
use. Probably land use, Lisa, number 2.
yeah, also under land use.
Yes, so John
Okay.
Eichman is really, so when I have a land use question, I go to John first, and then if it's something more, or if we need additional help, Bill or John will get Jeff Blake or Nicole involved.
Okay. My second question relates to the Kostra case, and if they continue to litigate that matter after the court has issued a decision stating that the town has acted properly, does the town still have to pay the cost of that ongoing litigation, or are they responsible for paying that cost?
Well, as the case stands right now, it has been dismissed.
Okay,
They can, the only way they could begin again the litigation is either to appeal it or to file a suit in another court. And to answer your question, there is a statute that allows a defendant, any defendant in a case that is sued with a frivolous suit or wholly insubstantial. It's Chapter 231, Capital A, Section 6F. And it says that a party that is sued by with any claim that is frivolous, wholly insubstantial, or issued in bad faith has the right to recover their legal fees. It's a fact issue for a judge, and the way you do it, the way you bring that about is you file a motion before the judge for your legal fees. So for example, if, not just taking that, if in either that case or another case, somebody kept trying to I don't want to say raise from the dead, but to energize a case that has been dismissed, we would, in my opinion, have such a claim under 230A, Section 6F. And if we were required to engage in legal defense for such a claim, we could and should file that type of motion for the court. So there is a remedy available, yes.
ultimately, the judge decides whether it's frivolous or not based on the motion?
That's right.
Okay.
And it's a tough standard to meet. But yes, the remedy is there. Because
a tough
judges do
standard to
not
meet.
like to discourage people from seeking their rights before a court of law.
Okay. And I think that was it. Passive, my only other question was about passive defense and sort of how you define that in terms of costs. So passive defense means that, particularly for the ZBA issues, you reference the parties sort of kind of having it out.
Right.
So who pays, are we paying? So for me, that references an external party and not you.
That's correct.
So
So for
is-
example, if you look at, just take any ZBA case, you've got the ZBA issues a permit or a denial, and a party is aggrieved, so that party sues the ZBA and sues the town. So you've got the aggrieved party on the one hand, you've got the ZBA on the other. What usually happens is, those parties independently engage in negotiations to bring the matter to some type of result. Either the lawyer will go before the ZBA and say, you've made a mistake here, you got to amend your decision, or you got to have another hearing and reissue the decision. The ZBA can decide to do that or not to do it. Our involvement would come from a request from the town, probably from Denise or through the selectmen, that the matter is of sufficient interest and importance to the town that they want us defending the ZBA. If that's the case, we're the lawyers defending the ZBA, and we bill you, and maybe you get that from the ZBA. If we are not asked to do that, we still know about the lawsuit because we get the papers. All we do is look at the papers when they come in and tell you what's happening. So you would get legal fees, but it would be a fraction of what it would involve were we involved actively in the defense of the suit.
So in that scenario, is the ZBA retaining their own attorney?
I think, because I've sat on some of these, I think
Okay.
they litigate themselves.
Oh, they
'Cause-
litigate
Right, and they'll
themselves.
have the offending attorney in here to talk to the ZBA, and then they'll go back and forth. But until that time becomes where it becomes more than they can handle, then they'll inquire for KP Law to get in.
Yeah.
But until that time, they're just reviewing things at a lower cost,
That's
until they're
correct.
actually deep diving into it, and then rendering their opinion on it.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
And if there's a suit filed, they can enter, a party can appear without lawyer, without counsel, and they could, in theory, file an appearance with the court and engaged in mediation or something like that. If they need counsel, they would submit a request to the board through your finance director, and then there would be a decision made, yes or no.
Okay, thank you.
All set? Bill, anything?
I'm good right now.
I just had one question. The Harris-Lack case has been ongoing for 3 years.
Yes.
And you probably don't have this, but I'd like to see a breakdown, how much that has cost the town
Over
per
3
year.
years?
Yeah.
Sure.
If you could send that to me,
I
for
can-
each year.
I will get
And
that.
since it's still ongoing, that'll go into calendar year 2018,
Yeah. Breakdown per year,
please.
okay? I'll send that to your finance director.
Sure.
Yeah.
Could I ask for
Yeah,
one
go
other
ahead.
thing? So Denise, it looks like you maybe keep this on an ongoing basis. Could I get the one for 2017
Yes,
forwarded to
so
me?
I did not do it for 17, just because with now, we have all the land issues that are being charged to different accounts. I can certainly put one together, because they break down the bill, and then I break it down by account. So I can certainly put one together for you if you want for 17.
That would be wonderful,
Sure.
thank you.
Yeah, I think we all ought to get a copy of that.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, I think we're all set. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good evening, everyone.
you.
I think this is a great exercise. I encourage you to ask me up here periodically. I think it's been a little more than a year since the last time. A year, 6 months, happy to do it. It helps us all stay on top of things, including me.
Excellent.
So
Thank you.
very much.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming in.
Thanks,
Good
Bill.
evening.
All right, next up, we have Mr. Sam Jocelyn to discuss the permit fees for the building inspector.
Good evening, Board. Sam Jocelyn, Building Inspector. About a year and a half ago, I was before you, looking to increase fees based on the numbers that were left by my predecessor for the incoming fees and the expenses for the department. At that time, the board asked me to get a little bit more history, come back. I do have the history now. Looking at the paper or the submittal I gave you, based on the current budget for 2017, we have rough fees that come in at about 65,000, putting us in a deficit of almost 16,000 each year. That 16,000 then comes from the general fund essentially to cover the shortfall in that department. There's no direct payment from fees to myself or the department. My entire department comes from the general fund. But typically what happens is most of your building departments generate enough fees to cover their operating costs so that it's a user fee driven type of department. So if you're putting in a pool, I'm not paying for your permit fee as a general taxpayer.
Right.
Which is, it seems pretty fair. My proposed, you can see, would bring the fees up to about 81,000. And this is just an exercise I did for this year, just to show where we'd be, which gave us a positive about, a little under $400. So it's not, we're not looking to get rich on fees. I know increasing fees is never a popular thing to do, but it's probably been about 20 to 30 years since we've done this. I did a survey of surrounding towns. You can see Boxford, Newburyport, West Newbury, Georgetown, Rowley, Salisbury, all at 10. Newbury, Merrimack, and Haverhill are higher. We're half of the lowest of the average at $5 per thousand. I'm looking to go to, and it is a big jump, but it's been a long time coming, to the low end of the average and meet the other towns 10 per thousand. So it's Again, it's not something that, you know, I do lightly. It does not affect how my department operates either way. I get paid no matter where it comes from, just from a sense of fairness in how these departments typically work. The fees usually cover the department costs, not general fund and tax revenues.
Just a quick question. So the other towns that are at, we'll use 10, because that's what you want to go to. Do you know how long they've been at $10 per thousand, roughly? I'm assuming it's been a few years.
Good long time. I mean, I can speak to Newbury because I've been there.
Yeah.
And they were at 12, and that's been at least, I've been there 13 years, and that was probably 8 to 10 years ago that went to the 12. And that was based on the surrounding towns, again, that were already either at the 10 or higher.
Right.
So it's not, this isn't a new, you know, everyone just jumped recently. This is probably, you know, average over the last decade or so.
And Groveland's behind by twice that.
We are, yes, we are way behind.
So, I remember when you came in before and talked to us about this, and my viewpoint on government is you shouldn't make a profit. It should be even, right? You spend what you take in, and that's it. I like that you're only $384 over, so that's as close to even as I think you can get.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's gonna fluctuate plus or minus a little bit. I don't know the exact value of permits coming in, but when I did out the numbers based on the last year's construction cost, the 3.2 million, it just calculated out by chance to that $10 per thousand and was right on the money. So I think most cities and towns try and, you know, do a level funding. They don't want to beat their citizens over the head with fees, but at the same time, they got to cover expenses.
Right. Anybody have any questions for Sam? Ed?
Yeah. Somebody puts up a brand-new house, 4.5. What would the fees be approximately? Is that something you could do off the top of your head?
450,000,
Yeah.
10 per thousand, it's roughly $4,500.
Bill?
No, I was for it before. I think it's well due. I think that if anyone's gonna be doing any kind of a project, that they're gonna have to, you know, turn around and build into their project that amount of money, like any builder would have to do if he's building a deck from Mary or whatever. And I think it could be very well built in, rather than have, like you said, the general fund, but the general fund is the people in the town, so people watching this, the people in town do not have to put the money in themselves out of their taxes. So I think it's, you've done a good job. I think it's level funded, and I think that, it's well overdue, and I agreed with you before you were in here. I think we should do it.
And just to give you an idea, I do get contractors frequently that will come in and are surprised, because most carry 1 to 2% permitting costs. And when they come in, you know, they're thrilled because that's already in their budget, and that's extra money that's
Right.
in their pocket, which is good for them, not so good for us.
Right. Lisa?
Nothing, thank you.
Bill?
No, other than, did you think about phasing it in, you know, going to 750 this year, going to 10 the next
I
year?
did,
Avoid the sticker
and
shock?
It's one of those, when we do permit fee changes, it causes a lot of administrative upset because it takes people a while to catch up with new fees. And I did consider it at first, and then I thought, you know what, it's time to pull the Band-Aid off.
Not worth the hassle.
Yeah, you know, I don't know what we'd be gaining by doing it, other than, you know, doing it twice.
Right. So do you think, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
do you think that, should we go, and someone makes a motion to go to $10, that that'll be the cost for 5 years, 10 years? I mean, I know it's hard to say, but,
Yeah, you know what, I try and keep an eye on the department costs,
Mhm.
and based on what we get for construction costs and the money's coming in, it's an exercise I do every year at budget time, just to see, is the department losing money? If we're, you know, within 10%, usually I'll just leave it alone, because some years you have a plus, some you have a minus.
Mhm.
If we start consistently lagging behind again, then yeah, I'd come back.
okay. I'm good. Does anybody want to make a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to increase the fees to $10 per thousand on the request of Sam Joslin, the building inspector.
We got a second? Further discussion, Bill?
effective when?
January 1st is what I'd like to do.
Friendly amendment to, Phil, you said that?
Yeah.
It's January 1st? Any other discussion?
No, I think I'm very satisfied with his explanation, and, yeah, I'll go along with it,
Yeah. All right, all those in favor?
yes.
Good job, Sam.
Thank you all.
Sam, before you leave, just a question, and it's related to this. I had a complaint from maybe one of the contractors about the computer, that they're not happy with the online permitting process, and it's difficult to use, and I know when you brought that up to us a while back, I asked about hard copies, and, some of these contractors, these older contractors are not familiar with a computer, but they said that there isn't any hard copies out there.
I try to keep them full. The problem that I have, especially with plumbing, gas, and electric, guys come by, they'll grab the full stack out of my bin so they can have it in their truck.
What's
So,
wrong with that?
It's nice for them to have free copies. I do try and keep them full. If they can't find them, they are, you can get them online, which I know that sort of.
But
fills
doesn't
the
that kind
hole.
of
Yeah,
defeat
they're
my
back to the
purpose if they're
online.
not computer savvy?
So I do try and keep them out there. I can't stop the pilfering of my copies, but I try to keep the bins full.
And can I just comment on that? So when Sam is not in the office, obviously my office looks down that hallway, so I will often go out and help somebody on the computer if they're struggling. If they need a copy of a permit, I've gotten that for them. So if there isn't one and I'm available, I will go out there and assist them, and usually it's, something simple that they didn't do right, their email address or something like that. Once they've been able to register, they tend to be pretty pleased. So I have gone out there, and as have other people in the building that have seen someone out there at the computer. Everyone in here is always offering help. So we do try and take that into consideration as well.
The young guys do like it, the older guys don't. I mean, that's pretty clear cut, and I do keep copies of the hard copies of permits on my desk in my window, so if Denise
Well,
needs to
put me
come
down
by-
as a younger guy not happy with it.
Excellent.
What are you laughing about?
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Jim Day to discuss his proposed game day youth sports clinics at the Pines. Hello. Oh. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me. My name's Jim Day, 2 Pottles Ferry Lane. I appreciate you putting me on the agenda so quickly to be on here this evening. So, let me tell you how this all started. So, first, back in 2003, I went in front of the board to talk about creating a summer camp for the town of Groveland, a full-day summer camp, and something that we could get back to the town. And as we all know, that summer camp is still thriving today, and Matt Castaway has done an amazing job with that camp, and great for the town, and we've seen some of the revenue and what we can do with it. And I think a couple months ago, there was a group of us in here and talking about now that extra profit from the summer camp and how it can go to the fields at Bagnell to help maintain those fields. So I've been watching closely about what's been going on with the Pines, and I've been listening to a lot of the talk with the maintenance down at the Pines. And I understand about some of the projects. In the last meeting, I think it was talked about with the utility fields and maybe them starting to get seeded, loams, stuff like that, starting in the spring, I think was talked at the last meeting. But the one thing that concerns me about it all is, and I think we talked about this all back with Bagnell, is not having a maintenance fund to help support those fields. And I agree with all of you. I heard that multiple times at the last meeting. So one thing that I had been thinking about for a long time was I look at other towns and their fields are always being used for sports camps, sports clinics. Their facilities are being used, and the towns are making revenue off of those sports clinics. People, they're renting out the fields, and they're always being used. And in the summertime, I'll go jogging or driving by the Pines, and those fields are not being used, they're vacant all summer long. So I'm looking at that as an opportunity that I can do something down there that I enjoy, which is coaching and teaching, and also give back to the town at the same time. So I put together a little packet for you of what I'm looking at doing. I would like to look at using an area of the Pines, one of the fields at the Pines, for a half day, a 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. for 6 weeks in the summer. So it'd be July and August. So I picked that time of the day because usually there's nothing going on down there in the morning, either down there on the field. So, and some of the families around here in Groveland and in other towns around, a half day is perfect. That's what they're looking for, not something that's a full day. A nice half-day clinic for the younger kids, but also all the way up till middle school age kids. So, if you see on the second page, it then has a schedule of programs. So my focus is mostly going to be, during the 6-week blocks that you see, is going to be for this first summer, I would look at doing a focus on soccer, football, and really conditioning for those sports, and then a sports conditioning for the last 2 weeks. The reason that I would look at that is because soccer and football are going to be sports that are going to be coming in the fall that kids need to get ready for. And then sports conditioning in those weeks in August, because it's right before those kids start up for their sports teams, so conditioning would be perfect for them to sign up for those programs. No contact with the football, because obviously that creates a whole different avenue of stuff. And then on the next page, the last page, just gives you kind of a breakdown of the budget, and what I would be looking to do. And I think I had sent a little bit of information in an email out to all of you. I really want this to be something that I can give back to the town with this program. And I think you can see in the budget that I want to give almost $6,000 back. And this is based on if only 25 kids a week were to sign up for these programs. So I would love to give that back. And I think Denise, please correct me if I'm wrong, I believe at the last meeting you had said that currently, is it to do the 2 fields that are there now, it's about $3,800 to do maintenance on them, is that right?
Yes, right, just the general maintenance, yep.
So,
Was that just for 2 fields or the whole Pines?
No, that was just for the fields.
The utility field and then,
No, it does not include the utility field, because we're not doing anything on that yet.
just the baseball and the softball?
The baseball and the
softball fields?
softball.
And the softball.
Okay.
So that's why I put down on the budget here, future fields, the 2 utility fields. So if I was giving you $6,000 a summer based on this program, then there's another $2,200 for what is coming up with the utility. And this is something I would like to keep contributing to this fund every summer. So I think I've given you a general idea. I'd love if there are any questions or things that pop out.
yeah, I like it. I think it's great that you want to do stuff like this. And I know that you like playing with the kids and, after-school programs and doing, activities with them. I think doing something like this is, just a testament to who you are and your character and giving back to Groveland. So that's awesome. The problem I see that you're going to have is scheduling, because there are town clubs that use those fields. And I don't know, what days you've been driving by there, but I think, Denise, you had said that there are clubs that are scheduling to do some kind of practice or game or something on those fields, or there's going to be maintenance and improvements done to certain fields at that time. So it's not all going to be available. There's only going to be certain areas that are going to be available, because some of that will be kind of cordoned off. So, when we do hydroseeding or fertilizing or
Right.
aerating, that's going to be off limits until that kind of takes hold. So I don't have a problem with it. Like I said, I think it's great. I think if we can work around the schedule and, the town stuff that it has already been in place, that will probably come first as far as scheduling. But if we can work around the schedule and get everybody into a place where everyone has the use for those facilities, then I'm for it.
And I agree. When it comes to field space, I'm very flexible about the space that can be used. I can use whatever space the town had available to me. Back in 2007, I believe it was, Matt Castaway and I had worked out a situation where I was the sports camp director for the summer program. So I came in and did this for him at the Pines. And I came in during the summertime, and he had kids bused from the summer camp to the clinics that I was running at the Pines.
How many years was that?
That was summer 2007 or 2006.
No, but did
We
you do
for
it one summer? Okay, one
We
summer.
did it for one summer. So And it went great. And he would bus over, I think there might have been, each week, there was probably about 25 kids that got bussed over. And then I had my kids that weren't part of the Groveland Summer Rec program, they came over as well. So what I see as a big picture item for this with those fields is it would be fantastic if, those fields get done and then all of a sudden, all those fields are being occupied
Right.
during the summertime to help make revenue for the town.
And you had said that you researched and there's some other towns that are using their fields in this capacity.
Yeah.
Can you say what towns?
Yeah, so Newburyport and Amesbury, the two things about them, first of all, is they have a rec department, and they have a rec director in those towns. And they run youth programs all summer long that are huge hits, huge revenue things for those cities, I guess I should say. And it's not just sports. I mean, they do everything. And they have sports, arts and crafts, theater, all kinds of programs all summer long. And it's big revenue for those areas, and the rec department, the rec director oversees those. In West Newbury, the Sachem Baseball School, which has been done at the Burnham Baseball, the Little League fields there, has been done for years there, that he has rented out those fields to use those. And Haverhill does the same thing. Their rec department has different camps and programs going on as well. So I just think it's an opportunity for us to be able to run great programs for the kids and grow off of this. Maybe this can be just something small, and then it grows and we can make more out of it, but.
Any, that down there, Bill O'Neill, you have any questions?
Good luck. No, I mean, you can pull it off. More power to you.
Lisa?
In the event that you had greater enrollment, would you still use that 40% figure so that if the enrollment were greater, there's the potential for the
That's,
town?
I think, something I had put down on there, that's something I think for the board, for you guys, if that's what you would like, the 40%, of course, I want to give back to the town. So if that's a figure that seems good to you and you're happy with that, that's fine. I think one thing about this, if the board is in agreement with it, I think there would have to be some kind of contract, I guess to say, or something in writing for a couple of reasons. One, to make sure that we would have the figure that, because this would obviously be my business. I would have all the insurance on it. Everything would be under me. So that we would have the money right on how much money contract I'm agreeing to give to you. But also, elections come all the time. New members come on the Board of Selectmen. So for me personally, if I'm gonna put all this out insurance-wise, the paperwork with the state to form my own business, I wouldn't wanna get all these kids signed up and all of a sudden we get a May election and 2, 3, or whatever new board members come on and they wanna give the Pines to something else and not to me. That's where I think something would have to be done in writing, whether it's a 1 year or whatever it is, for me to run it on those fields.
So something that's reappointed or recommissioned every December or whatever it is?
Yeah, I think if it was, if the board was saying that, for this year, you wanted to do a 1 year thing that, Jim Day's Business of Game Day can have the Pines, and then I would come before you, in the fall, and then you could reevaluate things then, or, see what money was brought in for the town, see how good what the program was, what went right, what went wrong,
Mhm.
and whether you wanted to renew something or not, and then I would know well in advance.
Right, that's what I was getting
I had
at.
commitment.
Right. So you'd have enough time to plan what you need to do and then
Right.
get everything in
I just
order.
wouldn't want to, like, right now, if we just said yes, and then there wasn't something in writing, and then all of a sudden,
Well, it's on TV.
you know what I mean? But May comes along and whatever, some year came along and there were new board members that came on and they were not for it.
Right,
Then
okay,
I'd be in a problem come
No.
May, where I had kids already signed up.
right,
So.
gotcha. Bill?
Well, number one, thank you. It's something that we definitely need, and we definitely need it over there. I think you've been listening well, and I applaud you. Number one, yes, I think we can make it work, and number two, the clubs that are over there, if we have someone that's willing to go in here and they're willing to make money, and they're willing to give this maintenance money to the town to get that place going over there, I think that should be precedent, myself, rather than have maybe someone that's not paying money and costing the town money. But that being said, and I agree with what you said, contract. And I would sign off on it right now if you were to say, yeah, I'll give 40% for the next 3 years. It's good for the town. This is all good business. This is what Groveland needs. And, like I said, I'm 100% on board, and thank you for stepping up to the plate.
Thanks.
Ed?
Yeah, I applaud, Jim, I applaud you. I just want to make sure this isn't going to affect the Bagnell School Summer Program, which is a pretty successful program, and, you're going to be competing with them probably for students.
It's a good question, Ed. So there will be kids from Bagnell School, I'm not gonna lie. There'll be kids from Bagnell School who've known me for a long time, who know me as their gym teacher down there. And there are kids from Bagnell School who are probably going to sign up for this program. And there may be some kids that are signed up for the Groveland Rec. I know, for example, I love, obviously, there's a special place in my heart for the Groveland Rec program. My two daughters go to the Groveland Rec program right now. They go full-time now. So I love that program. I'm just trying to offer something else, because I know that there are families out there that don't need a full day. And if you, on the second page where I show you the programs, there is a lot of the programs that I offer. So the last 3 weeks of programs, from the end of July till the middle of August, it's really fifth graders and up. And so I would have to, I don't want to speak for Matt on how many kids he has, fifth, sixth graders, the older kids at the camp. But I'm also trying to hit those middle school kids that have nothing to do in the summertime, maybe looking for something to do a week or two here. But yes, Ed, there are going to be some kids probably that attend the summer rec program. But like we did back in 2007, if Matt wants to work with me on something, that we can work on something that those kids at some reduced rate for me can get bussed over, or whatever we can do. I'll help both programs. I want to see both programs succeed, so.
And the other question, do you think a 50-to-1 ratio is safe?
A 50-to-1?
Yeah, you got 100 kids, but two employees.
Let's get 25 kids and
No,
2
25
employees.
kids. That's,
I'm sorry, 25.
That's all right, yeah,
Okay.
no,
Okay.
yeah.
That's a good problem to have, though.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
no, I'm sorry
No,
about that.
that's okay.
One thing I forgot to ask, the likelihood of getting the first 25 for the first year, you think that wouldn't be a problem?
So I'm basing this off of when I did it back in the 2007.
Okay.
And even though I could not, the deal we worked with the summer rec program is kids had to come from there. Just like Mr. Watson was saying, there was a concern that some kids, when Matt and I had talked about it, that some kids from the big summer camp may not go, so they wanted to come there. And we were I think 1 week we had 60 kids, another week we had 40.
Right.
So we were in that range, and there was another week with 20.
Right.
So that's what I based it
Are
on.
you in a good relationship with Matt in that program? You could go into him and say, I'm thinking of doing this, and would you be able to sit down and talk to me and possibly come up with some kind of a business deal?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
I don't see why not.
I think this would be good, because you're doing sports, where he's doing arts and crafts and other stuff.
Field trips.
Field trips and that kind. So I think that if some kid said, Mommy, I want to go do the soccer thing, and then the daughter wanted to go to the Bagnell,
Right.
I
And
think
there-
it could be a win-win.
Right, and there are plenty of, like right now, the Groveland Summer Rec Program is already competing against the Sachem Baseball School over in West Newbury. They run during the summer. John McNamara has his basketball camp at the high school during the summer, because my daughter did the summer rec program, but she also did the basketball camp. So she went half day to the basketball camp, and then we
Right.
brought her over. So there are sports camps
Right.
that are going on there already that they're competing against too. so.
They say sometimes the best thing for business is competition.
Mhm.
And I'm not the only landscaper out there, there's a few of them out there, so,
Right.
you have to be better at what you're doing
Yeah.
in what have you. There's plenty of people out there that I'm sure would sign up. So,
Yeah,
good
I
luck
think
to you.
that you and Matt could work through any problems that might come up as far as
Yeah, I don't see
enrollment
that.
or, people going.
And this would not, my, obviously, working here, the kids in this town would know me different, but being that it's my business, I'm gonna be promoting this thing pretty big with the web and so forth to other towns as well. So it's not gonna be just a Groveland
Right.
kid thing only, so.
Good.
I think it's a different demographic too, because I know, like, I have people that live in my neighborhood that don't want to send their kids to a full-day program, because maybe they don't work outside of the home, but they want something. And I think that the rec program also requires 2-week blocks. to
Yeah, I think
attend.
there's a minimum.
Oh, yeah, there's a.
Yeah.
And these are 1 week, so I think if you're going on vacation, there's a lot of variables that exist that might make this attractive to people who can't commit to 2 weeks worth of cost of the program. So I think it's sort of, for me, it's a different demographic.
Okay, well, does someone want to make a motion?
And
I'll make,
just
oh,
one quick question. If you and the summer program at Bagnell do decide to somehow cooperate, can you easily flex up and down your employees to accommodate extra? I mean, right now you have like a 12 and a half child per one employees, not counting
Right.
you.
Right.
Would you be able to flex up your staff and down
Yeah. yeah. I
accordingly
mean, I think that.
quickly enough?
Yeah, that would be, that, if we came to that agreement or something, you know, what I will do after this, if this is approved and we work everything out, is I will send something of this and get in contact with Matt, so that he knows about what I'm looking to do as well, so that he and I can have a conversation and we can do anything we need to do. And then, yeah, that's my job as the owner of this program, is the safety of the kids, number one. So if there's something that Matt and I decide and my numbers, you know, I would have to know my numbers before the week started anyway. So I would have to make sure I have the proper amount of employees to work that week.
Right,
So,
right.
Yeah, I will do that.
Great,
What's that?
yeah.
so I'll make a motion to accept Jim Day's proposal on the day youth sports clinic at the Pines.
Can I make a friendly amendment that that is from July 9th to August 17th?
Sure.
Also, coordinating with Denise on schedule, so that'd be part of that. I think that should be part of the
And
motion.
can I just,
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
apologize, just ask, so, and maybe this is for Denise. So would, if this is approved, Denise, would this, I would form a contract that I would give to you? Or how would we go about that? What's the?
You could certainly put something together that we could review. I don't know how we would structure a contract, so,
Is it enough that we're on TV and we give him permission to do this next summer and then reevaluate next year? I mean, is that?
well, I mean, you're taking a formal vote, so it's
Right.
in the minutes, it's a formal agreement that the board is doing if you're taking a vote. I mean, my concerns would be, which it's in the proposal, but it hasn't been mentioned, so, you know, the proper insurance. We would want to make sure that you are having, whoever your employees are, Cory checked if they're going to be around children on our property. You know, we would have to, again, the fields, I don't think we have anyone using the fields at 9 in the morning. I think they start in the early afternoon, so I think the mornings are probably fine. As I told you, next year will be a little more difficult because we are doing work over there, but we can find some space somewhere. So yeah, I think I would just recommend maybe structuring the motion where you actually articulate sort of all the points, so it's in the minutes. And then that way, that is your formal,
What I was actually thinking of doing, it was to after he has the conversation with who he needs to have, and come back to us again. That's what I was gonna, let him get some more information. We'll make the motion that we're gonna say, okay with the plan, but he's going to come back before this board, you know, obviously sooner than later. Give us a little more information, how you made out conversation, where you think you're going, or, you know. As long as you know you're getting the go-ahead tonight,
Right.
we're on board with you.
Right.
Bring us a little more information, how you think things will go, and
Right, and I'll gladly do
and that contract you're talking about, you
Yep.
maybe think about a contract, and we could talk about that night.
My, my only concern with that would be, I think you guys only have one more meeting December 11th, and then you don't meet again until January.
Oh.
And so my only problem would be, you know, I gotta kind of beat the other camps and get this stuff out probably no later than the end of January, so I'm, you know, the other camps are gonna start putting it out that February vacation time, you know, so I understand what you're saying, Mr. Dunn, I just wanna make sure that I,
Well, if you're getting the
And,
green light, if you're getting the green light tonight from the board,
yeah,
all it is specifics. You coming back with Pacific, you can go ahead, and if you got the green light, you know we're on board with it, you're gonna move forward with it.
Okay.
It's isolating, getting your contract, whatever you need, or, you know, next time you come in, we're gonna final
just-
up this conversation we're having
right.
tonight,
I
that's
just
all I'm
wanted to-
saying.
I just wanted to make sure that what we weren't saying is that I had to have an agreement, with, Matt Castonway.
No,
or somebody else. Okay.
just that,
You just wanted us
you know,
that.
my motion is based on,
Put out
you're
there.
getting the green light tonight,
Yeah,
come back with us with more information, how, you know, how you're doing, where you're proceeding with it, what have you.
Insurance, all that
Now
stuff.
you know that you got the green light, now you can go ahead and start building your
Yeah,
thing.
that's great, thanks.
Yeah, I would be of the opinion that we should put something in writing, though. Not necessarily tonight, but I think there needs to be an indemnification piece for the town. It's happening on town property. So I think it would protect you and it would protect us.
I agree, that's why I brought up the 1 year. Is there a policy in Groveland for like, if like a business or anything wanted to come in and use property, there is no?
No, we have not allowed it.
Okay.
New ground, that's why it's a lot of questions. So, go ahead, Don.
I just think, I think it's a great idea, but I just think we've got the cart way before the horse here. For your protection and ours, I think a lot of these things should be spelled out in writing. Spoken words can always be misunderstood, miscomprehended, misconstrued. It only leads to arguments, litigation. Like I said, I'm all for it, but for your protection and our protection, I'd like to see something more structured, more in writing, spells out what our part is, what your part is, so that at the end of the day, there are no misunderstandings on what each party's responsibilities are.
Right.
Is there a contract right now with the Groveland Rec Group?
Nope.
I'm sure this doesn't have to be a
They're
22-page.
considered a town.
You could
No.
probably get one from
I
one of the
guess
other
I
towns.
just
Single
wanna know, 'cause
space.
I agree with you, that's why I brought up the contract thing in the beginning. I just want to know how, then, if this is new ground, as we're saying, how Town of Groveland wants to go about this with a contract. Is that something that Town of Groveland's legal team forms up a contract? Is that
Legal
something
team?
I put something in writing and form?
Can you get a copy
looking
of
at
that
the
from
legal
one of the other towns?
Get
A copy of how they go about their litigation and contracting out summer programs or summer events, or,
I can reach out to them.
well, I mean, if you can get something like that, why go through the process of
Can you
reinventing the wheel?
plagiarize something is what
Yeah.
we're trying to
Right, so
do.
if you could
Can
put
see what I
something
can find.
together and submit it to the board, I think we could act on it fairly quickly. I don't think there should be a huge lag time. I just think it's a matter of putting something, memorializing something for the board to review.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have a unanimous decision to, at least a favorable decision to move forward. It's just making sure we have all of the, Ts crossed, Is dotted, and,
Right, but I probably won't.
yeah.
I wouldn't move forward with putting out stuff to anybody for signups until we have that
Right.
contractual stuff
Right,
put
but
down.
Jim, I can put you on the January 8th agenda, which is their first meeting in January. So if you can get me something by the end of December, I can add in their packet, they can review it, and they can meet on January
How,
8th.
how packed is the 11th?
Right now, it's fairly busy because you're doing all your December work,
We don't have another
all your
December meeting.
licensing, the year-end stuff.
I
But-
appreciate the 8th, and I will do my work till the 8th, and if I have issues I run up to with, I will contact all these towns. I know with the holidays coming up, how much response I'm gonna get back from them, I don't know, but I will do what I can, and even if I have to, I'll look online about myself putting something together that maybe I can give to you, Denise, and we can communicate that. And
Yeah, and I can certainly, I'm on enough municipal listservs that I can put out an email and see if there are communities that have.
Yeah, if you can take
I
an
think-
easier way out to find something that's already been done and just tweak it to meet your requirements,
Right.
then,
Well, but I think as Jim articulated, most communities have a recreation department, that these are just
Right.
recreation programs. So
Right.
contracting with a separate organization, we may be better off getting a community, which most do, with their Little League departments or Little League teams that, maybe rent field space, and it clearly articulates what they cover, what the fees are, things like that.
Even the Sachem Baseball Camp, though, is a very similar entity. So if there was something that West Newbury used for that,
Mhm.
that would be viable. And I think if you got something, you could get it to us in advance so that there wouldn't be a huge amount of time going back and forth.
yeah, you get it to us, we could read ahead, and we could have
Yeah.
a couple questions, 10, 15 minutes, and then you'll be good to
I
go.
appreciate that, because I know many of you and I trust you all, but I think that contract is the right way to go, just for future things, whatever it is. There may be other people that come forth from now saying that they want to rent out space or use space, and it'd be good to have something in writing with that, so.
Yeah, the last thing I want is he said, she said. We want to say, it says,
Yeah.
and there's no
And that's it.
discussion.
That's it, yeah.
Ed?
Yeah, do we need to write something into the contract to earmark the funds to go to the Pines Maintenance Fund rather than into the general fund?
There is no Pines Maintenance Fund. We would have to establish
We'd
one
have to
at
establish.
town meeting. We'll have to establish a revolving fund if this moves
And
forward.
so, oops, sorry. I was just gonna say that I think that would be something that will be helpful to me tonight, for me to do the work for the contract and look into that I can get back and I would have prepared is, maybe that's another motion the board wants to take, is 40% what you like? Is just to set 6,000 what you like? I mean, what do you think's fair?
I think
Can
my
we have it
motion
all?
was kind of,
I mean,
I think my motion was
If I
kind
don't
of,
ask, I'll never know, right?
Yeah.
go ahead.
I think my motion was kind of taken out of context. All I was trying to do with my motion was to give you the green light to go ahead, basically give you the green light to go ahead, and then we could enter into all that contract stuff when you came back. And that's when we'd edge in the 40%, and you know what I mean?
Okay.
That's what I was just trying to make you walk out of here comfortable that we're good with it, and we're gonna have that next phase of
So
conversation.
you're saying that on the January 8th meeting, we'll talk about the 40% or what?
Yeah, then
we'll talk about
we all
that.
have time to think about it.
For me, I'm 40% if that's what you want to start with and see what
I'm good with
happens.
that, too.
Then we'll see what happens. I mean, if we want to adjust it next year, depending who's up here,
I
we
would
can,
hope by January 8th, we've gone back and forth, and we've hit the number. We're just coming in here to ratify the contract we have at hand. Thank you, Mr. Day, great day, good luck,
Okay.
yeah.
and we're gone, you know what I mean? It's
And I
that
think-
simple.
Go ahead.
I think the 40% is a viable number, and I think the motion can just be that consistent with what you've proposed. So you putting together something that is consistent with what you've proposed.
Yeah.
And we can vote on that, and that includes the 40%.
Yeah, you have the support, it's just, let's make sure we get everything organized and in place, and, if we can do this, like Bill said before, the meeting on the 8th, and have everything lined up, and then that way we can just plow right through it and get you
Well,
going. What?
I don't know, you can't talk about it, so if
No,
you're gonna
you
decide
can,
on
though.
40%, you should say that now, and then, because you
saying
can't
if
be
it's part of
discussing
the-
that back and
But if
forth.
it's part of the vote, because it's consistent with what
Right,
the
no, I agree
proposal
that,
says.
but I think a couple of you said we'll go back and forth between now and the January 8th meeting,
That
so,
would have been me.
yes. So there won't be any opportunity to do that, your discussions would have to be in a
Right.
public meeting, so.
Denise,
Um,
oh, sorry.
How
Can I
about
ask
if
a-
we go through you without communicating with each other?
I think
It
if the
won't work?
40% is acceptable, I think you should just, as Bill's proposal is the motion to accept, Bill's motion is to accept the proposal for July 9th to August 17th while coordinating with the schedule. I mean, the proposal includes the 40%. I would say if that's what you're all leaning towards, then I don't think there's any, my personal feeling is there's no more reason to hash that out. I think that's pretty much been decided that they accept that 40%, if I am
All right, so
correct with that.
that was Bill's motion.
Yes.
Do we have a second?
I don't have a second, I had friendly amendments, but I don't
Yeah.
know that I.
I'll second.
All
Okay.
right. And now, any further discussion to that? I mean, I think we're pretty much in all agreement that this is the first step.
Yes, so Jim and I will go back and forth on the contract, and then I will get it to you before your January 8th meeting, so that on that night, or before then, if you have questions individually, you can ask me, but then you should be ready to vote on it that night. Does that
Perfect.
sound good with
That-
everybody?
Perfect, yep. Any further discussion?
Yeah,
Yes.
what are we voting on now, then?
That you're accepting the
The
conditions
proposal.
of the proposal, pending a contract approval.
Pending a contract approval.
Would you like that as an
Yes,
amendment?
friendly amendment to, is that right, Bill?
Yep.
Pending contract approval.
Pending
That work?
contract approval.
I just don't want to see you get hurt, I don't want to see us get hurt,
agree.
you know what I mean?
I appreciate it.
So you
It's
thought this
just-
was gonna be easy?
To mitigate this stuff ahead of time,
Yeah,
because there's always, no matter what you do,
Yeah.
there's these nasty things called unintended consequences that sometimes come up and bite you in the rear end,
yeah.
and then
when
no
the
fun
money's
for anybody.
involved, it always can be worse sometimes. So I
Yeah,
appreciate
when
Right.
money's involved, it's
Denise,
worse.
can you reread that?
Motion to accept proposal for July 9th to August 17th while coordinating with the schedule pending contract approval.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Great.
Thank you so much. Denise, before I leave, can I ask one question?
Sure.
I just wanted to know, because I know this maintenance fund, just for my thoughts over the next month as I'm doing this, there is no maintenance fund right now.
Correct.
Is that something that in order, town meeting would have to vote to create one?
Yes, so once they put a contract together on the 8th, then I'll write the bylaw. We have to put it into our bylaws as a revolving fund.
Okay,
So
and
I'll take care of all that.
And let's say I had just a great turnout of kids. I got a tremendous turnout, and we've agreed to the 40%, so forth. Are there rules, laws about how much money that, let's say the 40% is a pretty good number, because how many kids sign up? Are there rules about how much we can put in there? Or can 40%, let's say the 40% is $15,000, because how many kids signed up and where we're going?
So yes and no. I mean, revolving funds are not to generate profit. They are to cover the costs of running the program. So my expectation is if you have hundreds of kids down there, it's going to require more field maintenance from us. So I think the costs are going to increase as we have more field use down there. So I don't think, one of the things that we pay for separate right now is redoing the ball fields and the sand and all that stuff, having a field maintenance company come in and do the bases and things like that. So that could come out of this if you're using the baseball field. So I think as your program grows, we could attribute more maintenance to, over that period of time.
Okay.
So it's not that, and it couldn't be used for other stuff. It would be dedicated for Pines
And
maintenance.
because I'm a separate business, I can donate whatever I want.
Right, that's what I was getting
But
at.
no, so the contract will have to be structured that it's a fee. We're charging a fee for you to use the field. It's not a donation.
Okay.
It's a fee
It's a
because
fee.
then it has to come into our revolving fund as a fee for field usage and maintenance.
Okay.
And any
Denise,
donation have to go into the general fund.
Correct.
But Denise,
Donations
if
would,
he-
unless, well, you can earmark a donation for a specific purpose, but it can't sit on the books forever.
Okay.
That would be
Denise,
the-
if he had an awesome year, like he just said, if he had an awesome year and he wanted to donate an extra 10,000 from his business to the, say he wants to put a swing set in down there, can he do that?
Yes, but not through a revolving fund.
No, I understand,
So
but
yes,
he
could make
donated to the Pines, and then he could use it like a tax write-off or whatever.
Yes, he could
Right,
donate it
okay.
to the town for the specific use of putting X at the Pines. Yes.
Okay.
That
And
could be
would
done.
I be, one thing I want to be careful not to do is, would I be setting a precedent then if I'm saying, like you said, this 40% would be a fee? So if someone else came in and they wanted to start some great things for the town and do some else, is 40% going to be the starting point then?
You'd have to ask the board that.
Okay.
That would be up to the board to decide what
I-
fee
that's
would be
right.
attributable to each program, I would say.
Each
Yeah,
program can be a different.
But I don't think we're making a general policy
No.
at this point. I think it's a case-by-case
Yeah,
basis.
it would be independent,
Understood.
as far as I'm concerned. But I might not be here next year, so that's another question.
All right, thank you all very much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Jim.
Thanks.
Good luck.
All right, next up, we have votes of the board, the minutes from October 30th, 2017. Anybody have any questions on that?
No, they look to be in order.
You want to make a motion?
I'll move for passage.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Moving on to old business. Mr. O'Neill.
Old business. Looking at old business. Kind of a few loose ends here. Where did we leave off with the Cory checks, volunteers, the assistant for the town clerk? Did that ever get wrapped up in a pretty little bow, or is that still kind of open-ended? I don't remember having complete resolution on that.
Did you want to say something, Denise?
No, I'm trying to think, I was trying to think back to,
I think the only one who was, I guess, appointed or nominated, or whatever the term is, was Rhonda.
right, which you were all given her information by Ann when she came in to talk about that. So she gave her information. It's my understanding that she has a key to the office and has Mike's contact information and vice versa if there's a need to contact her. Regarding volunteers, I do know that the town clerk is using senior work-off folks, which have been Cory checked and have gone through the process. I don't know of anyone else that's been down there. I don't go in that office or down there. So I honestly don't know. All of the volunteers of the town, including the library, come to me for Cory checks, and there's a formal process. So, I don't know if that answers your question, but I don't know that it was ever formally resolved, but
I think it was the only
I
stinking
don't really
meeting I've
remember.
ever missed.
So I think Cory checks are, as much as I hear, the library volunteers are Cory checked because they come into contact with children. Schools do them because they come into contact with children. I'm not sure about, do we have a general town policy about Cory checks? Because if we do, then every volunteer should have them. But if we don't, I think they're consistent with where's the risk.
Right, so every volunteer that comes in contact with either elderly, youth, or sensitive information. And when we had talked to town council back last year, because of vital records cover, there's single births and things like that, that are sealed records, that's considered sensitive information. So that's why they had actually said to us, the volunteers in the clerk's office should be query checked as well. We don't have a formal policy, and I don't query check, not that we get volunteers in any other office, to be honest with you. The same would hold true, obviously, if someone volunteered for the police department. But those are really the only offices that get volunteers.
So right now, as far as we know, the only other person in that office should be Rhonda.
Well, she has senior work-off volunteers down there.
Do you know who those people are?
By name, I don't. I've met them when I've gone in there, but they,
So as far as we know, everyone that's in that office has gone through the appropriate process.
I don't know. I honestly
How
don't
do we
know.
find out?
So I think the better way to look at it is to say, we're hereby requesting, and we can take a vote on it and put it in the minutes, that anyone who volunteers in that office, or any office for that matter, is query checked.
Yeah,
And then that covers everything.
yep. You could certainly do that.
Yeah, that's fine by me. Someone want to make a motion?
I can make a motion that any town volunteer that comes into contact with individuals under the age of 18 or vulnerable populations or has access to sensitive information shall undergo a query check.
Can we get a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
I think to what Lisa said, sensitive information, would that be like getting into computers, or that would cover all that? That's all I
No,
want to make sure.
well, most stuff on the computers is public information, so
Oh.
it's really the information contained. If someone was in my office with excise is a protected information, so volunteers can't have access to excise records because those are protected under the stalker laws. So that would require a query check. Again, we don't have volunteers coming looking to work in our office, but that would be sensitive information that not everybody is
Okay.
privy to.
That's fine.
Most stuff we do is public records, so.
Okay.
It's just, there's a few things in the clerk's office that are sealed, which most of them are birth certificates of single parents, unmarried parents, like excise, obviously the
So
library.
sensitive information covers it then?
Yeah, I mean, sensitive information would cover it. It's really not, like I said, it's pretty specific because we don't do much that is confidential or sensitive here.
Billy, look like you want to say something.
Yeah, okay, we have a process to check the volunteers to make sure they're, they're not funny or anything. But is there a process to make sure the volunteer is needed? I mean, I guess what I don't want to get to is, we got a bunch of friends hanging around in offices under the guise of being volunteers, and then work isn't getting done, and then the morale slips in other departments because, we all notice what goes on around, can't help it. It's human nature, right? We look at what the other guy or the other gal is doing, we want to know, how come we can't be like that, or how come we're not getting, special privileges or whatever. So for example, can 20 people volunteer to help out Denise tomorrow, and then, she can't even get out of her office?
That's up to
because-
Denise.
I mean, I would say if you want it, you could certainly request volunteers that are screened by the board for anyone appointed by you, if you really want to do that. I don't think we have a need for we don't have many people volunteering.
Is that really up to Denise? That she can say, I want 20 volunteers tomorrow, and we have no say, and they're not really volunteers, they're just...
So the board wants to take on a role of micromanaging who's volunteering?
I don't think it's a micromanaging to see who's volunteering, and I don't think it's micromanaging to make sure that departments and the people that are getting paid are working and doing their job. I don't think that's micromanaging at all. I think that's part of a job. So there is kind of a gray area here. Somebody has to, it can't just be left up to the person, or else you've got anarchy. You can't, I'll have a party tomorrow, right? Well, what's to stop it?
But are we going to get back into the elected and the appointed thing again?
Right, well, that's what I mean. You can certainly put whatever parameters you want for appointed employees. I personally don't think we have an issue. We don't have people volunteering, so I don't think we need to, I personally don't think you need to do anything at that level, but
I would
the
agree-
library,
I would agree with
I don't
that.
think they turn away volunteers. I don't think they have too many volunteers. I don't think they have enough volunteers,
But-
so,
If you have an elected, positions, they don't even have to come to us, period.
correct.
So what's the sense of having the conversation? We've already been down this road, and what happens is the elected positions have, it's
Autonomy.
their office, or whatever, I guess, and they don't have to answer to us. So we're going down that road again, where we really should probably think about appointed versus elected.
Anybody else for further discussion? No? All right. Can you reread that again?
To have any town volunteer around the youth or a vulnerable population or sensitive information query checked.
Any volunteer.
Any town volunteer.
Okay, all those in favor?
To define town volunteer? Is it a town volunteer in any organization in the town or within town hall? Let's define, what is a town
Okay.
volunteer? It
Would
could
you
be
like-
anybody.
I would say it's anybody volunteering for the town.
That's why I said any volunteer.
Anybody who does any type of non-compensated work for,
In any department.
That is not a board member.
For the
That is
town.
not a board or committee
Yeah, for
member,
the town.
yes.
For the town.
that benefits the town.
Okay.
Right. Access to any town information, town employees, anything like that would be town volunteer.
Okay. All those in favor? Approved.
You know how funny language can be.
You all set, Bill? For now?
Yeah.
Lisa?
All set.
Bill business?
Oh, excuse me.
Yep.
Sorry, I didn't realize we were on that. Do we have an update on the status of the bathrooms at the Pines? And we had asked for Mr. Eric Kalian to give us something. Do we have that?
I do. I just didn't copy it for everyone, but I can certainly read it to you. The completion of the Pines bathroom is the next project I will focus on. Weather permitting, we should start in 2 to 3 weeks. If the weather gets too severe, completion will be in the spring. We've been very busy with Route 97 construction and paving of many other roads in town. At the present, we are installing drainage and a new parking lot for the municipal light department. The highway department saved the town over $200,000 constructing the Pines boat ramp, and we will save the town $70,000 constructing the bathrooms. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
So that was as of today.
So maybe before the end of the year, depending on weather. If not, it'll be pushed till April-ish.
Or March, I guess,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Yes.
I guess part of the question was going to be, with Mr. Day and everything going down there for 4 or 5 weeks in the morning, are we gonna have working bathrooms down there to use?
But that opens up a whole other question, because we don't have staff to maintain, clean, or
Right.
take care of the bathrooms. So that's gonna be something that we're all gonna have to discuss, and who's gonna access those
But he's only there
bathrooms
from
when the
9 to
time
12.
comes.
Yeah.
But the other piece is that if that money is going into the revolving fund and it requires a person to go down there,
Yeah, we
maybe
could
that
put-
comes out of
yeah.
that revolving
Yeah,
fund.
we
Yeah,
could
and it
hire a cleaning
definitely
crew
would,
once a
but
week or something.
That's something that will need to be considered, is
Okay.
who's gonna use them, who's gonna clean them, maintain them, et cetera.
Yep.
Unless some of the other entities that use it are part of the solution for.
Yep, yep.
Bill, anything for old business?
Can I add one other
Yep,
thing?
sure.
Can we get the personal advisory committee, has that posting gone out yet?
It's on our website.
Okay.
Ed, anything for old business?
No, I'm all set.
All right, moving on to selectmen reports. Ed, this is something that you requested for other boards to report back to the Board of Selectmen?
No,
No?
it was for Board of Selectmen members to discuss their reports of their attendance at other.
I'm sorry. Okay, so, did you want to go? You're on the town square committee, right?
Yeah, we haven't had another meeting yet. I believe our next meeting is December 6th. So at that point, meeting minutes will be approved, which will be forwarded to the board.
And the rededication of the bridge is this Saturday?
Yep, this Saturday, I'm just making, I have a note to remind you all, 11 to 2, I believe it
Okay.
is. Yep, 11 to 12, in Greg Stark's parking lot.
Got it. Any other committee updates? Do you have any?
Yeah, we had a building, new high school building committee meeting last Tuesday.
Yep.
Basically, still in the feasibility study phase of the project. where they're really encouraging a lot of community involvement on how they'd like the school to look, to run, to feel. Locations are still being discussed. There is another workshop. When is that coming up?
They're on our website, they're on the front page of our website. December 13th, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. They're great ways to get involved in the project.
Very interactive, very, they actually are, they said they had some really great feedback from the first meeting.
The first one.
The thought exchange, I think, is the
That's the one on the
online
web.
online mechanism, if you would like to.
Yeah, if you can't make the meetings, but
Right.
their meetings are interactive
Yeah.
forums of.
Much more,
Hands-on, they have
Hands-on.
people get up and really work on projects and get into groups and collectively, I guess, collaborate on what they'd like to see.
there's different perspectives. You have it from there's students there, there's
Yeah.
educators there, there's parents there. So you're getting, ideas and thoughts from a wide variety and diverse group.
They did say Groveland was very underrepresented, so if residents and
Yes.
parents want to attend, this is your time to get out there and have some
Great way to
say.
get involved.
When are the meetings?
Usually on.
I think there's only
next
one
is
more.
There might be
Tuesday.
only one more, yeah. They've had two, I think, so
Yeah.
far.
So the important thing to know about that is that if Groveland community members don't attend, then their input is really not part of the final design process.
Right.
And I think that's particularly important in view of the fact that this is, whatever the end result is going to be a shared cost of all three towns. So there certainly should be representatives from Groveland who are
Well-
providing input into that.
Right, so they had meetings, the first meeting was in October, the second meeting was November 15th, and then December 13th from 6 to 9 is the last meeting in the high school cafeteria.
But just to correct you, Groveland is well representative on the committee, so that Groveland is not underrepresented there. They're just underrepresented in some of these discussion groups that are
I'm
going on.
referencing the discussion groups.
And I will say, the architects actually were very complimentary of this board and the presentation they had here. They actually talked about the questions and the feedback. When we had our last meeting, they had only met with Merrimack. They were meeting, actually, I think tonight, maybe with West Newbury.
Tonight was, yeah.
So they thought it went really well. They thought the board was very receptive and had really great questions that they could then incorporate into their other discussions.
All set?
Yeah, unless you want to hear more.
Nope. Anybody else on any committees? Bill? Yeah, anything else? Ed, you want anything else?
No, nothing to report.
Would Ed's office hours fall under this? Would that report back on that? Do you report back on that?
It's
Ed?
up to you.
Your office hours?
No,
You don't want to report anything on?
no, nothing to report.
All right, moving on to correspondence. We have the minutes from November 13th, 2017. We have the executive session minutes from November 13th, 2017, and letter from the Finance Board on fiscal 2017 spending. And we have Finance Director's time.
Just a couple of things for you. Both Kermit Cross and Jim Freer came to see me to have me let the board know that if you are still looking for a seventh member of the Square Committee, they would both be interested. They would happily defer to either candidate if they just both wanted to have that seat filled. So if you chose Kermit, Jim is fine with that. If you chose Jim, Kermit was fine with that. But they wanted me to tell you that they are both interested in serving if you need one of them to do that. So I told them I would pass that along to the board. I already talked about the bridge ceremony. Another item I wanted to just talk about is, we've talked about this in the past, is the failing technology, specifically our server. We're still having issues. The server crashes approximately once a week. And you can ask any person in town hall trying to open up their documents. It sits for about 5 minutes before it will actually open anything up. We are really hurting and struggling for, to keep that up and running. The main concern for me, obviously, the documents we could deal with, it's email. We were down, not this past weekend, the weekend before, for about 4 days, just because the server shut down and wouldn't fully reboot back up, and I couldn't do it remotely. So I just wanted to put that out there. I know in the past, the question has come up about some funding. I did want to just hand this out. This is a copy of our cable agreement with Comcast. And Bill Hewig, who was here earlier, is actually one of 3 attorneys in the state that actually negotiates municipal cable contracts. And he reviewed this one sentence and said that it absolutely could be used for any technological purpose, which is what our cable contract actually states. For the board's knowledge, we have $196,000 in capital costs for cable that is dedicated to cable only. But we have $168,000 in recurring funds that comes in from that you pay on your monthly cable bill. It's a franchise fee, and that comes to us on quarterly payments. So I just wanted to throw that out there. It can be used for technological equipment of any capacity.
So does this need to be put as an agenda item, or could we, as the board, suggest that maybe you put together a proposal regarding the server?
Yes,
Or
so
do we need
you
to make that
all,
an agenda item?
so I don't think you need an agenda item for me to gather information. I will say I did, just because I needed to figure out where we were. It's about $45,000 to replace the town's equipment that is failing, which is the firewall, the server, and our spam filter. Also, just as an FYI, on the capital plan, the police department have requested a $20,000 server because their server is also going. So in total, that's obviously $65,000. This board is the issuing authority of the cable contract. Right now, we don't have enough members on the Cable Advisory Committee. There's only 2 members on there. So as you'll see in this, it actually is still up to the issuing authority to determine how those funds are spent.
How are they
So-
currently spent? Are they spent it all on anything?
They're spent when we redo equipment from time to time. Otherwise, it's just on the salaries of Chris and Charlie, filming the meetings and doing their stuff.
So can the board just take a vote on that, or does that need to go before town meeting? What's the process?
No, it's you all as the issuing authority to decide that.
And you don't think that we need that as an agenda item?
I certainly can put it on there as an agenda item but I didn't need an agenda item to tell you the cost because I've already done the quote.
But we couldn't vote on it without making it an agenda item?
You could, but I would say we could certainly put it on the agenda if you'd like.
If it needs to be an agenda item, we can just put it.
Did you
on.
say, you kind of gave a vague answer. Is it yes or no? to
You
it?
can, I mean, you can certainly vote. It's an item that came up that you could certainly take action on if you wanted to.
If we voted tonight to put this $65,000 towards the new equipment, how soon would you be able to get it?
Oh, I don't know. I would act
I
on
mean,
it
could we
immediately.
Band-Aid the stuff now until January, or are you looking at a couple months? Couple
No,
weeks?
no, it would be well before a couple months. Like I said, I've already contacted with the company, we've already gotten quotes, so I've already started the process because I know it's not gonna last until, July, so.
So if the chair thinks it's appropriate and permissible, I would just make a motion that we, as the issuing authority, designate $65,000 from the annual payments to the cable television license for the town of Groveland towards the replacement of the servers for town hall and the police department,
As well as the firewall, because that's,
and the firewall, excuse me.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Yes.
Ed?
I don't think it's proper to take a vote on the finance director's time. I think it should be a separate agenda item. I don't believe we've ever had a vote on the finance director's time.
So then I would just respectfully request that be placed on the next agenda, and we can take a quick vote at the beginning of the next meeting.
Is 2 weeks going to kill you?
no, I mean, we're getting by as we need to right now, it's just, I don't know how long, every time it shuts down, I just cross my fingers that it's gonna come back, so, I think it will be fine for 2 weeks. I think I can certainly make that last.
And
Well,
I
it's
think
not
that you
fine
can
for-
do all the work towards, doesn't mean that you can't move towards that place. We just take the formal vote 2 weeks from now.
Okay, I can do
Bill,
that.
did you?
Yeah, these servers are hardware,
Yes. Well, it would be the hardware and installation.
hardware and installation. And these costs, as opposed to using cloud-based technology, are,
So licensing does make up a large portion of it, but the licensing is a one-time cost with Microsoft as far as us buying Exchange. In order to go cloud-based, it's a recurring cost that we just don't have the funds for, unless we find another method on an ongoing basis. So I have evaluated both. With the cloud solution, you need to have a license for every single email address you have, even if they don't have a computer, which means the board members, every police officer, everyone that we have, we need a separate license for. Those costs will kill us.
Now, what's the initial cost to set all that up, if we were to go that way today?
The cloud way?
The cloud? Off the top of my head, I don't know.
You'd
We
have
were
to
talking,
contact-
they went through numbers with me and it just wasn't feasible, so I didn't continue with that
Yeah,
proposal.
you'd have to contact like DigitalOcean or something like that in order to get and if it's by every IP address, then,
It's every email address, because
Yeah.
each one requires a
It's
separate
even
cal.
more.
yeah. I
Right.
think that'd end up being more.
I'm just looking at 60, well, hold on, I'm looking at 65,000 today, and you know these things don't last forever. You're gonna get 3 to 5
No, it'd be
years.
outdated by the time it gets here.
You're gonna get 3 to 5 years out of them tops, and then you're gonna spend, well, it's 65 today, I'm gonna say probably 90 in 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years after that, you're probably gonna pay 120. So is it really, you know, are we saving any money just by replacing this hardware over and over again and not going to a cloud-based technology where, yeah, you have the recurring cost every year for these licenses, but over the long run and over the course of time, you're actually saving money? And
I wonder if
you're not
cloud-based
down-
technology, though, will decrease in cost over time. Because right now, it's, how, right
Well,
now-
basically, you're buying a virtual server.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm guessing that,
Or
like
renting
anything
it, I
else,
should say.
over time, it's
Yeah.
going to,
Oh, it'll definitely go down. It's gonna be an inconsistent cost because it's by number of email addresses and everything else and
Right, and
different servers
storage.
and different storage, IP addresses. That cost isn't gonna be 20 grand every year. Some years it might be 30, some years it might be 18. But you can't say it's gonna be a fixed cost every year, year over year over year. How long did that last server, or have we had that last server for?
I believe 2010. We're running server 2011 on it, so it won't even update any longer.
So lifespan's about 7.5 years or so.
And that's right about where we are.
Well, about 5, it's been dying for a while.
Well, it's been dying for a while,
Okay.
yes. But we're still running, knock on wood, we're still running.
Yeah, but let's face it, 5 is about the max, and then you're really you gotta nurse it, you gotta feed it medicine, you gotta put Band-Aids on it, and it takes
Right.
up a lot of time and energy from that point on. That's just counterproductive to everything and everybody.
But I think in the current setup, I don't think that's our best approach, because I think in the long-range plan, what we really need to do is look to run fiber between the buildings, and then you can eliminate the need for multiple servers. You can go to the cloud. We don't need multiple phone systems. You can really streamline the process. But I think just for our current setup, we don't have the capability to, I mean, yes, we could certainly put everything in the cloud, but I think we're still running duplicate systems on many other levels because we're not connected that way.
and is working towards that, would it be permissible to use these funds to work toward what you're referencing?
So yes and no. So yes, however, this contract expires in 2019, and Bill Hewig has told me likely they will strike that language in our next contract, unless we fight to keep it in. The definition of cable is anything that is connected or runs cable of some sort. So if you run fiber and you put a camera at each end and connect it somehow to our cable system, it would be determined it's cable. It's
So-
not covered under technology.
So under the current writing, we could use it for any technical aspect until 2019.
Anything that says
After
technological.
that, we're limited.
correct.
So we
Well,
should-
if the contract is renegotiated
Right.
to remove that, we would be limited, yes.
Have you talked to the guys in Capitol about this? I heard they're nice guys.
Actually, one of the gentlemen on Capitol is the one who came to me and said, because he's also on the finance board, and we've been talking about this heavily on the finance board, and they are fully supportive of using the cable money. And he's the one who said, the police servers on the Capitol, if we could take it off there and not have to spend town funds and do this under the same funds, I think it's a great idea. So I didn't even realize they had a server on that plan, to be honest with you.
Would you be buying the same, is it a Dell server?
I'm not a big Dell fan.
Well, I don't know, what is it in there?
I don't remember what they spec'd, to be honest.
But I'm assuming that the newer model than what you have from 5 years ago is faster, more efficient.
Oh, yeah.
More, as far as electricity and cooler and everything else, so maybe you get 6 years out of it, who knows?
Right. I mean, not to mention, our server has had, even prior to my arrival, there's been viruses. We had the
Right.
ransomware attack, which ever since then, the stability has been up and down, even though we tried to eradicate it completely. So those vulnerabilities we can, at least remove with the new firewall that's updated. Our firewall doesn't update any longer because that's outdated. So once we can update the equipment and things can
That's good.
actually be
Cybersecurity is
protected.
good without the firewall.
Well, it's protecting, it's just not updating.
Yeah.
So, yes, so hopefully we would we have moved our financials into the cloud, so our financial software, so if we go down, so that took a large portion of our server. So I think, we use it for really email and document files. Everything else we've sort of removed from the building just because of the uncertainties.
So I think that we should proceed as motioned and then work towards a longer goal of trying to streamline it, like you were mentioning, with fiber and one phone system, one server, or cloud or something, to go to that the next time this happens in 5 years, we have a better idea of, how we can streamline it better, or actually have worked towards that in the next 5 years.
Yeah, or have a roadmap starting today,
Right.
at the end of
Right.
5 years, where they are.
Right now,
already.
we're on a bridge to that road, so,
Right, and we have the exact same phone system in this building and the police station, but they're two complete full systems. And, we have 12 phone lines on it here, but we have capacity for 24. It's just we're not connected by fiber. So in my research and working with the company, we actually found some conduit. It's blocked, but it might be something that we could actually clear out and run, easy enough through there. So I think that's something we could certainly work towards.
Okay.
And then that, you could streamline a whole bunch of things once we're fibered.
so let's put that on the next agenda item. It should be a quick item,
Yep,
and then we can vote on it then.
okay.
Are there any other servers in town that are, for example, does the fire department have one, or?
They don't have servers, they run just on standalone computers. The library is on their library server system, so they're
MBSC.
separate, yeah. The assessor's office does have a server, because they maintain the database. It's actually probably pretty old. I can certainly check in with her. That maintains the entire real estate property
It
records.
probably makes sense, while we're
Yeah.
having this discussion, to maybe bring that.
You're walking down that road, right?
Or we buy one server and virtualize it and put them both on there.
Yeah, buy one bigger server.
Correct, and you could virtualize her server right on there, instead of having a separate piece of hardware.
You're
You know
there
what that
now, right?
adds?
Makes
Do you know what
sense.
that would add?
I don't know what that would add, because I hadn't even thought about their server. So I can look into that.
Well, you could virtualize it with software, though, so you wouldn't have
Yeah,
to.
just licensing.
Yeah.
And just the
Well,
better machine
Depending
prior.
on what you're using for an operating system, you can also get some open source software that didn't have any license.
Yeah, well, they're SQL-based
Yeah.
system. And we
Okay.
could probably get like a Unix box, which is pretty stable.
Yep.
So I can certainly look into the assessors and try and get a better quote for the 3 servers. And maybe we can get a better price with labor for doing all of them at once.
Anything else for finance time?
Nope, that was it.
Moving on to selectmen time. Ed, we'll start with you.
Again, we had an issue with the CATV, it's been out for some time. I got a call this afternoon, I called Tracy, got it taken care of, but apparently it was out for a number of days. I think we need to bring Chris in again and see if we can get some of these corrected. He's supposed to have the capabilities, of checking the cable TV from his house, and out as long as it was, he probably wasn't doing that. I think we need to bring him in and get some answers.
Bill, anything?
So that's something that probably wouldn't be until January. Is that okay, Ed?
Well,
Yeah,
then,
that's
can we,
fine.
Okay.
maybe can someone write him a letter and bring that issue before him?
Yeah, and I certainly can. I think I told Ed earlier, when it's out and Chris knows about it, he would text me and say, just so you know, the cable's that I'm working on it. So I would have to agree. He probably didn't know that it was out. He does have an odd setup in the police station with a webcam on a live stream to our feed because he doesn't have access to Groveland TV where he lives. But he set up this system and has an app to actually see if it's running. So perhaps with the holidays, I don't know, he just wasn't checking it. So I can follow up and just ask him about it in the interim. But it likely won't be until January that he's on an agenda.
Anything, Bill, for selectmen time? Lisa?
Nothing, thank you.
Bill and Neil?
I have nothing at this time, sir.
All right. I do not have anything. So can we get a motion to adjourn at 8:22?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
So be it. Thanks, Tracy.